Hello and welcome to the Meraki Unboxed podcast. Thank you so much for coming back. We did our pilot episode just a couple of weeks ago talking about Wi-Fi 6. It went super well, and so I'm really looking forward to today's episode. We're going to do something a little different this time. So instead of focusing on technology, we really want to talk about what matters to us here at Meraki, get behind the covers, look at some of the philosophy that drives what we do here. So this is the Meraki Unboxed podcast. We do this every couple of weeks, and our goal here is to alternate between something a little technical, something a little less technical, and hopefully make this a super engaging experience for you. I'll be back a little bit later on to tell you how you can learn more about Meraki. But for now, what I'm going to do is hand straight over to my trusty colleague, Chris, who is going to introduce this week's episode.
All right. Thanks, Simon. So one of the things we talk a lot about here at Meraki is simplicity, something that represents not only our technology, but our company mission too. And we've developed a tagline that really speaks to this, what we like to say, work simple. So given that we're discussing such an important topic, we thought it best to invite the man who's leading the charge here at Meraki, our illustrious GM, Todd Nightingale, who is back at our HQ in San Francisco, no doubt catching his breath from sharing the Meraki mission from places far and wide. So thanks for making the time, Todd.
Sure. Excited to be here.
So just to set the stage a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role here?
Sure. My name's Todd Nightingale. I have a long professional background in networking, started out with wireless, and now I look after the Meraki business for Cisco. Great. Super exciting. Best job I ever had.
I hear you're also an amateur bread baker, too. Is that true?
I'm a strong believer in the no-knead methodology for bread baking. Thanks to Mark Bittman. I stand by it.
That's awesome. So just diving straight in here, you've mentioned many times how about our customers and IT folks in general are looking for simplicity. Again, the thing that we really hang our hat on here. And given we have this point of view, work simple, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what that means to us here as Merakians and then to our customers out in the world.
Yeah, look, I think there's always been a certain amount of discussion of the value of simplicity in IT and how we apply technology. And now more and more, I mean, we see our competitors, we see people in the market, especially in networking, talking about simplicity. But I feel like in large part, the IT industry has sort of lost its way here. As we made, over the last 3 decades, as we built this internet and made networks and infrastructure more and more powerful and more sophisticated, somewhere along the way, we made them more and more complex and cumbersome and difficult to manage. And because of that, we made them brittle, such that our users might set up a network, set up infrastructure, but then be really reticent to change it and modify and make it agile and responsive because they were so worried that they might accidentally break something. There's the scourge of the industry called CLI, and it is so frequently misused. There's so frequently a mistake typed into a command line interface that there is a funny name for it. So every time someone fat fingers a command, there's a developer who wrote that command and added it to a CLI interface that is rolling in their grave. Like, we can do better. And I think that's what the real vision for simplicity and this idea of work simple at Meraki is that you don't have to make a choice between power and simple. Right. That we can bring both to bear in a single portfolio. And working simple, not just being simple, but working simple is this idea that we can bring enterprise-grade technology really designed for work, and we can make that truly simple and because of that, truly agile.
Great. And I really like this one thing that you say about not leaving anybody behind. As things have become more advanced and complex and technical, you're not leaving this giant group of people behind. You're not putting these tools out of their reach.
Yeah, sure. At Meraki, we talk a lot about this idea of democratization of technology. And by that, what we mean is if you build enormously powerful technology, but you don't find a way for everyone to use it, not just the Fortune 100 with dozens of CCIEs and certified engineers on staff, but the 10 pizzeria chains and the school district in Ohio and the and town hall, et cetera, around the country. Like, if we don't find ways for those IT groups and those network users to leverage this advanced technology, from traffic shaping to high security, from segmentation to different types of analytics, if they can't access it, then we've left them behind. We've created new and powerful technology, but we've only brought along the top 10%, the top 1%. And simplicity gives us an opportunity to bring all of that power to bear across the entire market.
Great. Is there a particular customer story you like to tell when it comes to simplicity? I know you've probably got a few. Do you have a favorite?
I do have a favorite, I guess. I live in San Francisco here, Meraki headquarters, but I'm a New Yorker, and every once in a while I get to go home and visit the family. I usually stay on the Upper West Side, where most of my family is from. But being in San Francisco, I love this thing called pour-over coffee. So I searched for pour-over coffee in New York City on the Upper West Side. And it turns out there have been enough San Franciscans who moved back to New York that you can get San Francisco-style pour-over coffee in New York. I go there. I have the coffee. It looks San Franciscan. There's like hipsters covering the place. The coffee tastes right, smells right, looks right. I open up my laptop. The Wi-Fi doesn't work. And the Wi-Fi doesn't work because that coffee shop got caught in this hole between consumer-grade equipment. They were using an AP that was constantly rebooting. Consumer-grade equipment that would have been great in their home and probably was great when that coffee shop owner set it up late at night.
Right.
But then when 25 people all started trying to connect at the same time and download Netflix, et cetera, it just couldn't hold up. And it turns out I did a packet capture. It was just constantly rebooting. I put my laptop away. I have to go into the office downtown in Penn Station. And I flew back to San Francisco that same day. I go into Phil's Coffee to get my pour over with San Francisco hipsters. The Wi-Fi works great at Phil's because they use Meraki. And they get the combination of both powerful and simple. And it is great coffee. I'm a big believer.
Great. Switching gears a little bit, looking at our products, I know that obviously we could rattle off a number of facts and figures about how powerful and intelligent they are, but in terms of the simplicity and true value that they provide, are there any specifics there that you would like to detail?
Yeah, look, I think we're proud of all the hardware we make and how simple it is to deploy and manage and all that stuff, but the flagship product of Meraki is the dashboard, not any one hardware component or any one individual piece. Dashboard itself is the flagship, and it's really what drives the simplicity. If there was one killer feature of the Meraki portfolio across the board, I would say it's the lack of a serial port, such that the only way, the primary way, the main way to use this stuff is through dashboards, through an intuitive web interface driven by our design team, made as intuitive as possible. And I'd love to give you the 19 ways we use artificial intelligence to drive assurance, the way we use design studies to drive an intuitive interface. But the core value here is an intuitive web interface available around the world for enterprise-grade features.
Right, which is super powerful. And mitigates a lot of frustration.
Sure.
As it does. So a few questions for you. Some IT workers and business decision makers might hear simple and think that it's not for them. What would you say to this?
Yeah, look, I think simple and basic sometimes get misconstrued as meaning the same thing. And for a while at Meraki, when we started to message our portfolio as simple, and we went out of our way to say, first and foremost, our primary engineering tenet is simplicity. We did get some feedback that said, hey, if you say simple, some people are going to think of that as basic or rudimentary. And we had to pause for a moment and try to take that to heart. But the reality is you can have powerful and simple. Meraki is about bucking the trend and the idea that you have to make this compromise. And I think that's an important part of what we do.
Great. So what's the biggest misconception you hear about Meraki that you'd like to clear up on the record? Going with the big questions here on the podcast.
What is the biggest misconception? Oh, there's so many. The biggest misconception about Meraki, one misconception about Meraki is that, well, it's not for really big customers. Mm. In fact, Meraki's deployed at Fortune 100 customers around the world, and at the very, very largest customers in retail and hospitality and healthcare. A lot of times Meraki is the best fit and the most applicable for those customers when they're highly distributed. If you're a very large customer and has thousands and thousands of sites, you probably don't have CCIEs and very sophisticated engineers at every single site. Meraki and the simplicity of that distributed architecture can just make it so much more efficient, can drive so much more business value, while at the same time making you more agile, making you more likely to experiment and be able to test your user experience, your customer experience, your shopper experience, because with simplicity comes agility. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's a big piece of it. That's a misconception that pops up quite a bit. Okay. I also have some pet peeves. People keep asking me about if it's hard to run the Meraki cloud on AWS, which almost all of the Meraki cloud doesn't really touch AWS.
Right.
I don't know. There's always a rumor. There's a rumor every minute. Of
course. Yeah. All right. So final question for you. Thanks for being a good sport here. Though Meraki has a growing global presence, there's still many that haven't heard of us. What would be the one thing you'd love for them to know right out of the gate?
I would love everyone to know that, look, Meraki stands for doing something with passion and soul and love. And that's what we bring to, I think that's what we bring to the industry. Mm-hmm. And to our products and to our customer experience, soup to nuts. We are always trying to get better. Meraki is not and never will be a completed product line. If you looked at Meraki 2 years ago and it didn't quite fit, look again. And hey, if you look today and it doesn't quite fit, give us another shot in 18 months.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Todd. This was really illuminating. Great to have you here for the podcast. For those of you on Twitter, you can follow him at TKnight. Building up that follower base.
Thanks, man.
But so I think that does it for us this week. Passing it back over to Simon.
Hey, thanks a lot, Chris. I don't know about you guys, but I love listening to Todd getting excited about this stuff. It's Friday afternoon when we're recording this, and the energy is still there as we go into the weekend, and that's pretty impressive. So Todd, thanks a lot for coming in and spending time with us this afternoon, and I really hope that's given everybody an opportunity to really get a feel for what we care about at Meraki, and we gave that little definition there of what Meraki means. Putting your soul, creativity, and love into your work, and that's really what drives us here Monday through Friday, every single week, and our support team, even on the weekends as well. So it's a good story all around. Hey, thank you again for taking time out to join us on the podcast today. This is still a new experiment for us here at the Meraki team. So we want to hear your feedback. We want to hear what you think of the show and what you would like to hear from us, because really as much as we can make this valuable to you, that's why we're here. So you can reach out to me directly online at Meraki Simon on Twitter. Alternatively, I definitely recommend going along to the Meraki community. That's a place where you'll find ongoing conversation from folks like yourselves who are interested in discussing some of the topics we've covered today, as well as some of the specifics of our actual products themselves. So community.meraki.com, that's the place to go to check that out. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another exciting episode, so we really look forward to speaking to you again. Have a great time before that happens. Bye for now.